Bad transitions can totally derail a great worship set. And even worse than that is being asked to play in the background with no warning and then totally blowing it. This video covers all the sounds and simple concepts you need to learn to make sure that never happens to your worship team. Let's make the most of it. So sort of the musical term that we would use to talk about playing in the background, covering transitions underneath a prayer in a moment of a song or whatever, is the word underscoring. To underscore means to draw a line underneath whatever's being said, whatever's being sung, or even played by other members of your band. And you can be underscoring during transitions from song to song, from service moment to service moment, or even underscoring during specific moments of a song, maybe after the second chorus, before you go into the bridge. All of these moments are about playing underneath, drawing a line, sort of a through line, underneath whatever is happening. These moments don't get planned out. Most of the time, they get very little, if any, attention at all. But they are of outsized importance. And that's why watching this video is gonna help you to be better prepared for these moments that are honestly just kind of challenging to prepare for, and also easy to forget to prepare for. So in my experience, when these moments really go off the rails for the keys player is when you're coming out of a song or a moment of your service, and you're using keyboard sounds that were designed for that big moment. Here's an example of this going wrong from my own life. I'd prepared this giant crescendo to end the song So Will I by Hillsong. It has layered synth sounds, tons of brass, lots of arpeggiated moments, and we nailed it. The band crescendoed, we built, we landed on the one, the song was over, it was epic. But then the pastor walked up on stage and began to encourage the congregation, began to pray for the congregation, and I realized very quickly, I need to continue to play and fill space to support this moment of ministry. But the sounds that I was just using didn't fit the bill at all. So I had to scramble very fast to piece something back together in my software so that I could actually play my role in that moment. I should have seen that coming, but I was so focused on this written out, planned moment of this giant build at the end of the song that I just neglected to think about what I would do afterwards, specifically what sounds I would use afterwards. So how can you be prepared for these moments? Because you don't know when they're going to come. You just know that, they are going to come. This happens to all of us when we're playing on the worship team. To start off with, I'd recommend always just having a safe sort of piano sound ready to go at a moment's notice. If you're using software or hardware, you just need to get really comfortable with where you can get to that go-to piano sound at any time. So I'm gonna add this to my patch inside of Sunday Keys. I'm just gonna bring in this SK Grand Hall sound. Now that's a nice, pleasant piano sound, but if I want to play simply, then there's going to be some air afterwards, some space. So I'm sure that you're familiar with the concept of just layering a warm pad in with your piano sound so that as the piano fades, the pad continues to sustain out. So we could choose any nice warm pad sound. And then you want to just layer that a bit underneath your piano. When you're choosing which pad sound to use for this kind of purpose, make sure you pay attention to how it responds to your velocity. That is, how aggressively you play the keys. Sometimes you want something that responds a little bit. Maybe it gets a little louder or a little bit brighter as you dig in. That can help you to match the tone of whoever's speaking, praying, or singing during these moments. But you don't want it so responsive that one stray aggressive note really stands out in the mix and distracts instead of enhances. So a little bit of velocity sensitivity, a little bit of responsiveness can be very useful, but you definitely don't want more than feels appropriate. It is definitely a good idea to try this out at home as you prepare so that you don't find that out on Sunday morning when you're on stage. So this pad responds just a touch to my velocity, but not too much. And if I need more brightness, I can bring up the mod wheel here. So then there's just a little bit more sizzle, a little bit more energy. So this is a good starting point for you if you're new to underscoring or just a baseline of being prepared to cover something unexpected that comes up. But if you always use this exact combination of a piano and pad, it's probably going to start to feel stale to you. So here's a few simple ways that you can mix this up. You can try swapping the acoustic piano sound for a nice electric piano sound. This is a Rhodes style electric piano with some nice chorus, reverb, and tremolo. Check it out. You should also absolutely be prepared to operate with no piano at all. Just a single pad or a couple pads layered together is actually all the moment needs. When you're doing this, it's a good idea to make sure the pad or pads you're using have enough note definition where it's clear to your congregation when you're changing chords. If your pads fade in really slowly, it's very hard to be expressive, and it might just end up sounding like a soupy wall of noise instead of like actual movement, actual underscoring. So for this example, I've still got this Prince pad, which is a little bit more of a subtle warm pad, and now I've replaced my piano sounds with this retro bell pad. And this pad works very nicely for these sort of pad-only moments because the attack is actually noticeable. Listen to this. So I'm able to articulate and do some voice leading and melodic stuff in my right hand. And that retro bell pad makes sure that that is obvious musically without being too aggressive. Here's one more example you can try. This is a little bit more of a touchy choice, so make sure that you're feeling confident before you try this on stage. Before I show you, if you're enjoying this video and you're not already subscribed to the channel, would you please pause the video for just a second and hit that subscribe button? We put out a new video to help you and your worship team every single week, and you subscribing to the channel helps us grow to be able to continue to produce videos like this one. So thanks for subscribing if you're not already. It really means a lot to us. So now we're still working with this single Prince pad sound. No piano, no electric piano, but we're gonna layer in just a bit of this subtle organ sound. And you really have to be intentional when you choose the organ sound that you're gonna layer in. You don't want anything too bright or too aggressive. And you definitely want to make sure that it's not really dry and right up front in the mix compared to your pad. So this is sort of what I'd call like that Coldplay style organ, where it's just as much a pad as it is an organ sound. Here it is on its own, so you can hear its character. It's pretty dark. The stops are mostly down, and there's a good bit of reverb coming from this plugin here. Without that reverb, here I'll show you, it's a good bit more dry. But we add that reverb in, and it washes everything out. And then when we put that pad on top of it in the mix, it all comes together really nicely. We can even extend right hand range a bit. We're adding some energy intensity, but we're not gonna get in the way of anybody who's speaking or praying. Now we've covered the sounds, let's talk about how you can prepare for these moments that seem a little impossible to prepare for. All of this work, in my opinion, needs to happen at home during practice, because let's be honest, it's very unlikely your team's actually going to slow down and run through all of these moments or anticipate all of these moments during rehearsal. So it's less about preparing for very specific things that you think are going to happen, and more so about having the mindset of, if things happen, how can I be ready to be flexible and adapt so I can cover them when they occur? So you have to practice these moments at home. The best place to start is just thinking about the intros and outros of all of your songs. Now, I'm sure as you practice your set list at home, you are already learning the intro parts and the outro parts of your song on the keyboard so that you're prepared for them. But I would invite you to take it a step further as you practice for your next worship set. Don't just practice the intro and the outro, but also put just a few minutes into something else that's sort of adjacent to those moments. So it can be an alternate chord progression, or it could be a change to the way that your sounds are going to be mixed. Maybe you're just hanging out on the 1, switching back to the 4, and then back to the 1. The truth is that if you just loop the intro or the outro over and over and over and string that out to cover transitions, prayers, encouragements that are happening, those are going to get stale pretty fast. This is a trap that people fall into. So as you practice at home, imagine, what if I needed to make this intro last 3 minutes instead of 1 minute, and then practice that moment, because that's very likely to happen sometimes during your live worship services. Once you do the work to say, how could I extend this moment of the song an extra couple of minutes without just playing the same thing over and over, that posture is going to start to become more comfortable to you. So as you end a song or a set list, you'll be able to start to recognize, oh, this is going to be a little bit longer than the original recording was. And it's a simple pivot into that alternate idea, that alternate progression, or that alternate arrangement of sounds because you practiced it at home. When you're doing this practice at home, also make sure that you program your software or your hardware keyboard to be able to go right along with you. Sometimes you can use the exact same patch that you've prepared for a song, but I think it's also a very good idea for every set that you build sounds for to include what I call a filling space patch. And that's what we've really been working on so far during this video. I've got this patch now with the 4 sounds that I would put in every single set list that I ever played. And with these 4 sounds alone, I'm confident I can cover anything that's thrown at me. I've got a grand piano, I've got a warm pad, I've got this bell pad that has a bit more note definition, and then I also have this ambient organ sound that I showed you just a couple moments ago. And I've got this saved with default levels that I think I could just select the patch and immediately be ready to fill space if I needed to. And I have flexibility on the fly to change the vibe. Your underscoring patch or filling space patch might not sound exactly like mine, and it should be determined by the sounds that resonate with you the most, that you feel comfortable with, and that fill the needs of your band. Just make sure you have flexibility so that you can respond to the moment and not just be locked in to one exact mode or feel. Now, often when I'm underscoring, I do like to grab individual faders and adjust my sounds in real time. But we can also program snapshots inside of the Sunday Keys app to make it easy to pull up a couple default vibes. So let me show you how we would do that. I'm going to bring these layers all the way down and just start with this Prince pad alone. I'm going to save that here. Now for my second snapshot, I think I'm just going to bring in this piano and a touch of this pad. And then for my third snapshot, I'll bring in this organ pad and increase the prominence of this bell pad. And then we'll save one more, which is just pads, but with more intensity. So then I can label these just warm pad. And we'll label this one add piano. We'll label this one building. This is where I'd go if I needed to fill a good bit more space. And then lastly, big pads only. So now let's say that I'm on stage, something that I didn't have time to prepare for or anticipate comes up. I can select my filling space patch and be ready to cover right away. I can add this piano. Build. And I can bring up even more ambience, but then take that piano out. And then right back to just my warm pad. Programming this kind of flexibility is really easy inside of the Sunday Keys app. All of those transitions are seamless, and we could even adjust the time it takes for those transitions to happen. If you're not using the Sunday Keys app, if you've got hardware or other software you like, whether this kind of thing is simple for you to do is going to be determined by the limitations of that equipment. But inside the Sunday Keys app, we think it's really simple, and I definitely recommend saving a few default snapshots inside of your filling space patch. Now, I'm going to put a shared setlist link in the description of this video, so if you do have the Sunday Keys app, click that link on your Sunday Keys device, and this setlist will be imported to your user library, so you can use this filling space patch or modify it however you'd like. And if you don't have the Sunday Keys app, but you'd like to learn more about it, there's a link in the description for that too. While you're down there, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next video.